Welcome, welcome, welcome to today's episode of Evolve or Repeat, and taking a bit of a different angle here today. Excuse the wild hair if you're watching YouTube. I'm just in the door and I want to grab this opportunity whilst the house, I would say quiet, the tortoise has been knocking on the glass and the dog is beside me, but whilst the house is quiet, just to get this podcast recorded, I want to try and record some shorter ones that you can just grab, some nuggets on the go. So we'll see. You know that I'm not great at trying to keep things succinct, so we're gonna try. So today's episode, taking a bit of a different view and looking at repetition. So I've come across a few things recently whereby people have tried to change things for trying to improve things, trying to make things better, and ultimately it hasn't made things better. So, loads of things here that I want to touch on. We can often think, and me having ADHD, I'm always like, oh, excited about the next new thing. Um, but sometimes it's really good to remind ourselves of what is working in our lives. What things have we tried in the past that have actually really supported us? What things do we know to be true? And I'm going to share some bits and pieces about that. So this conversation, I guess, started for me, I think it was about 2 weeks ago or a week ago when I met my friend for brunch. And he was a teacher, he trained in the 60s, and he was a teacher in primary schools. And he was saying how much things changed in the 80s due to government legislation that he felt really wasn't great for the children, right? He worked as a primary school teacher. Um, the government had, put in things that people needed to achieve and teachers needed to achieve and children needed to achieve. And teachers lost a lot of autonomy and were kind of forced to, do things a certain way, which ultimately didn't work for every single child. Whereas previously, teachers could decide their own curriculum and work with the class and teach the children in lots of different ways about, different things. So, that kind of got me thinking about this process of why do we always feel like we've got to change things or make things better? So then I went for this walk at a local oh, it's not a mental asylum anymore. It was a mental asylum that was built in the 1900s. Now, I will link up my blog post here and my Substack post about it if it's something you want to dive deeper on. But what I discovered, I was walking around and it's the most stunning location. It's, surrounded by woodland and fields, and the buildings, some of them have been converted into flats and things now, but some of them are derelict or kind of look a bit abandoned, abandoned mental asylum. But they are the most beautiful architectural designed buildings. So I was walking around, just, it's kind of a little bit freaky, I guess, walking around mental asylum, thinking, God, wonder what this was like in the 1900s. And then I dove down a rabbit hole when I came home. Now, diving down the rabbit hole of finding out what this hospital was like opened up complete magic for me. Um, and during, the period that it ran for nearly a century. And during that time, um, this became like the pioneering space for mental health within the UK and within the world. And what they were doing, that I guess back in the day, a lot of people with mental health problems or who were born with particular disabilities were sent to poorhouses, or they were imprisoned, they were locked away. This space didn't do that. They built community and they had, different dorm houses, but it was created to feel like a home. And the people there were nurtured, there was music, there was teams, there were good food, they had glass houses and kitchen gardens where the actual patients worked alongside. The staff there, they had, if the patients were able, they were given jobs. The place itself wasn't my words really aren't coming today. It wasn't kind of like locked up. There was no like gates or things to lock these people away. It was kind of an open door, bar those ones that that were particularly could be more challenging for themselves or whatever. But generally, like the whole space was like open door. I'm only one person ever escaped, right? In 100 years, which you think it's just like, wow, right? Because they didn't want to. And then I came across staff comments, people that had worked there or people whose parents had worked there. And my heart just like overflowed. People were just sharing their experiences of what an incredible place this was to work and how much joy they felt. And they had drama club and choir, and think about this is like the 1900s. Like it, it is just so mind blowing. And they focused their mental health recovery on being in nature, fresh air, connection. Recreation was a huge part of what they deemed to be supportive. Then came in government in the 1980s and said, actually, we want to change this and we think people should just be supported in their own communities, which I totally get as well. But ultimately, it led to kind of, this particular facility closing down due to lack of funding and funding being put elsewhere and this shift. And to me, it is such a sad state of affairs that that occurred because in my, you know, decades worth of career supporting mental health, my own research of mental health, all the courses that I've studied, you know, these practices that they were sharing worked. And in the name of progress, that was changed. And, this was like happy environments. Now, I have been in some mental health, like hospitals, um, and they certainly did not have the energy and vibe of what it has coming across in the comments people shared here. Staff members that I have spoken to who've worked in these particular places are stressed. Patients, I have people that I know who have been in those kind of environments, and their experiences have not been nourishing, supportive, loving, compassionate spaces to be in. So, yeah, it really saddens me that that's what occurred, but equally, there's so much we can learn from that and bring that forward. So, this is kind of what's got me down this path of thinking about evolve, evolving and repeating. And sometimes repetition isn't, sometimes evolving isn't always the best route. So I wanted to dig out, and I did this just a moments ago. I trained years ago in acceptance and commitment therapy. And there was a process there that was shared, and I wanted to see if it had a particular name. I can't actually see the name, but I'll tell you what this process was. And I think it's super helpful, and I'm actually going to use it myself to go through some things. So basically, it is a table. And this is used for supporting people in overcoming, could be physical pain, emotional pain, life's challenges, all sorts of different things, anything that you might think, oh, you want to fix or change or whatever. And it's a table. And what it says is the first question is, what have you tried? Okay, so you write down what it is that you've tried to support yourself, right? And acceptance and commitment therapy is used for a whole host of different things, anxiety, depression, addiction, um, whatever you have going on. So, what have you tried? The next question is, did it make you feel better at the time? So, did it make you feel better at the time? Sorry, I was conscious I wasn't speaking into the microphone. Then the next question is, did it make you feel better long term? Okay, so what have you tried? Did it make you feel better at the time? Did it make you feel better long term? And then the last question is other ways that, try to read this writing here, it impacted your life. Okay, so other ways it impacted your life. So, I think I put down, this is an example that I'd obviously written when I was studying this course, like, what have you tried? And I've got here overworking. Short term felt better. Long term, not so much. And then, the other ways it impacted me, well, it affected my home life and burnout is what I've written there. Um, then I had other things like physio, Reiki, yoga, weight loss. Did it help? And I've put yes, but not fully. Did it make me feel better long term? Yes. So you can begin to start looking at things that support you. So, for example, I went for a sports massage this week. I've been going for physio for my shoulder. My physio has actually broken her wrist or fractured her hand. So she is out of action, but I went for sports massage and injury stuff, and it really helped. And it helped not just in that moment, but it helped later on. So that is something I can pay attention to and be like, why are you not just doing this? So I have booked in to go and see her again in 2 weeks' time to support me with that. So have a think about the things in your life that support you. Like today, last night I was in a right grump of a mood, and I was just feeling like frustrated and annoyed, and there's things that I wanted to do with my life, and I was just like wanting to go and do certain things, and my husband was busy, and my daughter was busy, and I was like, oh. So I decided last night, wake up and go and do it yourself. So I woke up this morning. Sorry, the tortoise is now knocking on the glass. 2 seconds. For those on YouTube, this is him. I shall let him have a little wander about. It'll save him knocking. Um, So yeah, I woke up this morning, got ready, got dressed, took myself to a local National Trust property. I wrote my Substack this morning because I woke up with that in my head. Took myself for a nice lunch with my book, went and saw my horse, came home because I wanted to record this. So yeah, I know those things support me. I love being in nature. I love spending time with my horse. So yeah, sometimes we just need to think about what actually is it that's serving us. The other thing I've written down here is like the other day I made up some fly spray for my horse, right? And I did this like a couple of weeks ago as well. Rather than buying it. So rather than spending like 14 quid, I've got all the stuff at home and I made that. So I've saved myself basically £28, right? Because I had the stuff at home. But I was like, why wasn't I doing this? Because um I used to make that when the kids were little. We used to do that, make the horses fly spray and stuff. When I was a kid, I used to do that. I know it works. I know it's good. I know I've got the items. Um, so I was like, yeah, like returning to things we know it works. Menu planning, I know that works. I know it makes me feel better. I know that it gives me lots of options. I'm just keeping an eye on the dog and the tortoise here because the tortoise loves to wind up the dog and he's just right in front of the dog's face. Teddy, you okay? Um, and yeah, so things like that. And then, you only have to look online that people are realizing that actually everything in the name of improvement, like AI, excuse me a moment. Right, you just stop. Highly professional podcasting going on here, just shifting the tortoise out of the dog's face. Um, who knew that tortoises had such incredible personalities? This one is just like he's so sociable and a bit of a wind-up merchant. Um, So yeah, you only have to look at things like AI. Like people are already getting like, yeah, it's helpful, but I heard people in the coffee shop I was in today even speaking about it, just saying, God, I'm so sick of it. I'm so sick of all like the social media posts and they all look the same and da 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 da. And I feel the same. And I saw somebody's writing on Substack, and I was just like, oh my God, you can tell that person's used AI. And it just makes me so sad. Um, that's that's happening. I use AI. I use AI on the podcast in that I have something taken notes just now when I'm speaking so that afterwards I can convert it into like podcast notes and a social media post and things like that. So I don't have to think about that. It allows me to show up and do this. So I'm not saying I'm totally against that, but it's again like what is working and what isn't working. And yeah, the final thing I wanted to say was so many people are waking up to traditional methods. I love it. Like if you, there's so many like homesteading accounts online, and people are like canning stuff. People are like making their own clothes again, repairing things, making things, growing their own fruit and vegetables. It's so cool. So I'm gonna have to go because these animals are the dog's now away nosing where the tortoise is gone. But have a little think about it yourself. Let me know if this resonates. Like, you know, what in your life have you maybe forgotten about that actually works for you? Can you repeat that? Um, Again, it could be like for me, I love my Weight Watchers. I know it works. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Could it be anything else? Let me know what you've forgotten about, what you're going to start repeating. What did you try and actually maybe it's not working out and you're like, actually, I need to scrap that and go back to whatever it was I was doing. Let me know. So, evolving isn't always for the better. Sometimes we need to repeat the things that work. Okay, sending you guys so much love. Apologies for all the animal distractions. And I will be back soon with some more evolve and repeat. Okay, so much love. Take care and please do share it. Reach out to me. Let me know if you've listened. Thank you to those that have reached out to me, especially on the back of the Bank of Mum and Dad one that have found it supportive and helpful. And yeah, catch up with you guys soon. Take care.